Every year I push my team to think about their software updates. And when I think about software updates, I think of them as things you once thought were true that you realized over the course of a year, a few months, whatever it is, usually a year, you realize were not true. And the goal of this is if you have no software updates, that's a problem. In this episode, I'm going to talk about some of my software updates from 2025 and lessons I'm taking into 2026. And it's thinking about really what I admire, the kind of person I want to be, what I want to build, how I want to build a sustainable business, really rooted in clarity, boundaries, brutal honesty, and or what some would call a radical candor. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes. I'm Shelly Hughes. In this podcast, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of building a profitable, passionate brand. We talk about the wins, losses, and especially lessons learned about what it takes to build the business of your dreams. This episode came from a little bit of journaling, and I was thinking about just how different this year felt compared to previous years. I think in previous years, I was just like absolute blinders on, just going forward and going as hard as I could. And I realized that some lessons aren't always wrapped in a nice, pretty bow. Some hit like a brick. You have to look back and reflect and say, I really should have thought a little bit more clearly on that one, right? Or some you realize, wow, I made huge progress in X area of my life. I made huge changes in X area of my life because I had one of those software updates and I made decisions quickly around that. This year handed me very many, but I'm going to go through 5 lessons that I'm carrying straight into 2026. Lesson 1 is that you belong in the room. So many times this past year in 2025, I sat in rooms with CEOs for so many reasons. Even now, I'm like, what am I doing in this room? And I was part of a CEO Access cohort through the Philly Chamber of Commerce. And the whole point was partnering up CEOs from large companies and CEOs from small companies. It wasn't a mentor-mentee situation. It was a true partnership because they believed that CEOs from small companies could learn, of course, from CEOs from large companies, but it was also vice versa. There were many CEOs from large companies that kind of lost that founder mentality, these things that only founders and small companies and startups really have to focus on, but are still so important. And if a big company loses it, it's a huge key that they need to refine. So that was one thing that I really learned in 2025 was to step into every room knowing your lens is unique and to not self-filter yourself because you don't always look like everyone else in that room. If you're invited there, even if you're not invited there, show up and realize that they can learn from you just as much as you can learn from them. Humbly, of course. The second lesson is when my family needs me, they need me. I have been stopped in my tracks more times than I'd like to count when one of my sons tells me that they don't want me to leave for work. And of course I still say that, but what I've learned in 2025 is that when my kids need me, they need me. A lot of times I will stop everything and I will give them a hug and I'll spend 5 more minutes with them and I'd make them feel loved because they only have one mom and they only have one childhood. And it's really freaking hard to balance that, right? Saying, I'm going to be late to this meeting or whatever it is. And in the past, I've had to shut the door on my kid as he's crying because I have to go. And I know they'll survive. Kids are much more adaptive than even we are. But one thing that I learned in 2025 is to choose my kids over the business. And that's not necessarily a very popular opinion in the entrepreneurship space, but it's something that, especially right now, my kids my age, that I know I have to do. And that's, have I lost business opportunities over it? Probably. Do I work after they go to bed? For sure. But I'm always there for bedtime. Not always. I only go to evening events once a month now. I went many more times, but I'm usually there bedtimes. If they tell me to stay, I typically do because they just need a little bit more love in that moment. That's one thing that I'm never going to regret. Lesson 3 is stop hiring cheap. I definitely learned when you underhire versus when you level up that talent and trust in yourself that, yep, I'm going to pay this person's payroll. Look, you get what you get for it. And I remember Barbara Cochran, she said one time to hire people before you need them because you don't want to be scrambling to try to find this person when you need them and you deliver a bad product. And so that's what I did this year. I did some retooling. There were some people that weren't right for the positions and I rehired the people that were right for the positions. My payroll went up significantly, but I knew and I was strategizing that this person was going to pay for themselves, hopefully quickly, but I'll use the word eventually. And guess what? They did. So, don't downplay offshore hiring. Also, be strategic and be fair. But in this day and age, keeping up with cost of living is really tough, especially for small businesses and especially for roles that are perfect for more automation. For small businesses, it makes a huge difference. I learned about offshore hiring. There's really brilliant people out there that you could pay them less than you would pay someone here. And this is so controversial, and I'm so sorry, because I do love American jobs for sure, but they do such a good job within your budget, right? My executive assistant, Valentina, she is so smart. She's so good at what she does. If I was in New York and I was trying to pay someone also living in New York $100,000 to be my executive assistant, I would never be able to do that as a small business. If you can find someone that would do a really good job and give them a decent living, and they happen to be offshore. So don't be afraid of it. Talk to me if you need insight on that, but it was a really good decision for my business, and I wouldn't have found Valentina otherwise. Invest in really high skill hires and build that intentional offshore systems when needed. Lesson 4 is, for me, faith really recalibrates everything. I came back to church this year, and it didn't just shift things when times were hard. It shifted decision making, right? Faith isn't just comfort. It's really clarity. And I truly believe that ethics and alignment are daily practices, and understand the morality of life. And I believe that alignment in your faith has to be not just crutches and chaos, but it really helps you make really good decisions. I think when you don't have some kind of morality in your life and practice it, and everyone's, yeah, I'm a good person, but actually practice it and have a basis behind it, it's very easy to make somewhat unethical decisions, even if they're small and they get a little bit bigger and bigger. Definitely make space for a reflection, whatever that looks like, and find that kind of morality base that is going to keep you and your family focused. The 5th lesson is culture isn't just about ping pong tables. This year, I rolled out a profit sharing system. I did a lot of things that helped me realize what culture really means. And there was a Forbes article, I think, a few months ago, and it talked about how, maybe it was a book, I can't remember what it was, but they basically said that culture is all about listening, and not just listening, but hearing people when they talk. That's what people value. And some of these more benefit things, that's the benefit, but some of the perks should be more ad hoc. So you don't necessarily want like a monthly dinner because people are going to expect it. And if business is bad that month and you don't have it, people are going to be mad. I'll have a set bonus every single year, because if some bonuses are really big and the next year business isn't so good, people are going to be mad. So that's something I really took into account this year, of what do people actually care about in company culture? Autonomy, being heard, right? Getting ownership over something, feeling connected to the job that they're doing and the people that they're working with. What I'm working on now is figuring out what those perks are and how can they be more surprise and delight instead of all the time and expected, because that's when it's really more beneficial. And culture isn't all about ping pong tables. I hope everyone here knows that, but you might not. Listen, you don't need a new year to become a new and improved leader. But if you're tired of being stuck in the same cycles, try to think about what lessons you learned, what gut checks you've had this past year that have really carried you through 2025, and it's going to support you in 2026 also. I truly believe the most powerful move you can make isn't to scale faster, it's really to scale wiser with the right people and right communities around you. So that's just a quick holiday episode. I hope it was helpful. I hope you have a wonderful new year. If you like this episode, please review, send it to people who you love, and I'll see you in 2026.